Hey y'all, I'm Mayer Cunningham, the special education boss. If you've ever felt confused, overwhelmed, or just plain frustrated at the 504 IEP table, you are in the right place. Every week, I'm breaking down the rules, the rights, and the realities of special education so you can walk into meetings informed, empowered, and ready to make real change. And whether you're a parent, a teacher, an advocate, a school-based member, or somebody who's just trying to do right by a student, this podcast gives you straight talk, real answers, and tools that you can use immediately. I'm not here to play politics. I'm not here to play sides. I'm here to train people who sit at the table and teach you how to follow the law, ask the right questions, and protect the rights of students. So go ahead and hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change. We're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We're back. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everybody to Ask the Advocate, answering all your questions about 504s and IEPs. If for some reason we haven't met yet, I'm Mayer Cunningham, special education boss, training everyone that sits at the 504 IEP table to navigate and negotiate successful student outcomes. So I am wearing the correct color. I don't know if you know, last week I wore an angelic white, and that makes the comments hard to see. So won't be doing that again. So we have red, hot-blooded, Valentine, red and pink. You can't go wrong with that, can you? So, Cynthia, are there questions? I know we had questions sent ahead of time, correct? Did you get those?
Yes, I did.
Okay, you want to read those?
Yes, I have questions. I'll have to pull up the other ones. I do have, how do I request testing for my child?
Yeah, so you want to keep it simple, not complex. You don't need to send the school a letter from the United Nations or federal code or statute or listing all of your rights under state and federal law. Just simply send an email saying, this is Mayer Cunningham. This is my official request for my son, Billy Joe, to have special education testing, areas of suspected disability. And I put them in categories instead of the actual name. I would say learning, attention, language, something like that. So this is my formal request for ability to have special education testing. Areas of suspected disability are learning, attention, communication. We look forward to coming in and signing notice and consent. That's it. You don't need to make it complicated. We need to make it simple. So, and then also if you guys look on the bottom left-hand corner, I don't know if you guys can see that, but if you have a direct question you want to ask us, is that right, Stephanie? It's in the bottom left-hand corner. You want to give me a thumbs up? Am I saying it right, Stephanie? What is it saying? Because it doesn't show on me, because, you know.
The bottom left, it has a comment bubble, and it says service with a little arrow going up.
Yeah, so if you
click on that.
Yeah, so if you wanted to reach out to us directly or get a direct message to us, please use that. It is in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. So, all right, Cindy.
All right. How long should a student be in resource and mainstream before he be placed into a self-contained classroom?
Well, a self-contained classroom doesn't tell me about the acuity of his disability. So there's many self-contained classrooms. There's out-of-district placement for children that have had a disciplinary action, whether they're Gen Ed, Special Ed 504. There are self-contained classrooms for students who have behavior or neurological differences, maybe an adaptive behavior unit or an autism unit. There are also early childhood special education rooms, which are self-contained, and then of course there are life skills settings where children are on an alternate curriculum. So it's not about how much time they've been in another setting. We are always charged with, as a committee, to make sure that the appropriateness of their LRE, the least restricted environment, is being implemented currently.
And we have an update to that question. It says the IQ is 56 and auditory, sensory, seeking, and behavior.
Yeah, so I mean those are data points. But they're not exhaustive, right? I could have a student as a 56 IQ and be able to be modified and successful in some settings, whether they're elective, science, or social studies. So again, before I just put a child in a self-contained setting, removing him from non-disabled peers, I want to make sure that I've exhausted all of my legal requirements and expectations under 300.115, which talks about in the federal code supplementary aids and services.
Excuse me. What data needs to be collected before testing my child?
Say it with me. None. Absolutely none. So the law doesn't say anything about collecting data. And if it needed to say that, they would have said that in the last 50 years, but it's never said that. It simply says that we are charged with, when I say we, the LEA, the local education agency, we are charged with ILE, identifying, locating, and evaluating children who have suspected disabilities who may be in need of special education and related services. So if you've been taught by your school district, county, or city that you have to collect a certain amount of data, you have to put them in MTSS, SST, RTI, that would be misinformation. I hate to say lying because that sounds so harsh. So we'll go with misinformation. Is that better than lying? There's more vowels in it, so I feel like it's a better option.
Are all accommodations collected the same way?
Are they collected the same way? I hope they're implemented the same way. So that's really our greatest concern. Each school district or each teacher will have a different data collection system, but they're to be implemented routinely and effectively, and then you're obligated under state and federal law to track that you implemented them.
Is it appropriate to have an AAC device for a student in general education? The student is nonverbal.
It's appropriate to have an AAC device for a student that needs an alternative augmentative communication system. So that would include, but not limited to, a device and sign language. So certainly we would have individuals that use sign language in a general ed setting. So absolutely.
What does predetermination mean?
Ooh, that's a good question. So predetermination, for me, the short version is you came in on no and you left on no, right? So predetermination means you've made a decision outside of the convened meeting with all the stakeholders, and no matter what new data is given to you, communicated to you, petitioned to you, explained to you, your position doesn't change with illuminating new information that might give you a different direction. So giving somebody a draft piece of paper is not predetermination, but when you've made a decision and we say ABC school before we get in there with Mr. and Mrs. Barnett, we just want you to know that our answer is this, and we don't change our minds, that's predetermination. All decisions are supposed to be made by the committee, and that includes all of the stakeholders, which parents are 50%.
How long do I wait before requesting an IEP meeting if my child is not meeting their IEP goals?
You've already met that threshold. When there's a problem that needs to be addressed in the IEP, we address it. So I would call that meeting.
Should my child be reevaluated in every area? Is that necessary?
No, I mean, that's the committee. When we look at a reevaluation of existing educational data, we certainly don't want to waste district's resources, the evaluator's time, or, bother the student with unneeded testing. If the student was visually impaired, and their vision loss was stabilized and it wasn't cortical vision impairment, I don't know that I would do another vision test to see if he was visually impaired. We've already determined that. If a student's in a wheelchair, I don't need to do another full test to see if he has an orthopedic impairment. But certainly there are pieces where the related service providers will want updated testing, speech, PT, OT. Certainly if we're looking at new achievement levels, if we are looking to see if maybe there's an additional SLD, sometimes students have an eligibility of autism, and sort of the older they get, we determine that it actually is an emotional disability or severe ADHD. It's not autism. So when there's a need for new testing, we do it, but it's not just a checklist.
So would it be appropriate to come in with ideas for my child's IEP, but then be open to their information that is brought? Is that what I should do?
That's what everybody should do. That's what the parents should do, the advocate, the attorneys, school-based members. The IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, was built and founded on in 1975 when it was called Educating All Handicapped Children Act. It was founded on the consensus model. The consensus model doesn't mean we come to agreement every time, always. Disagreement is part of the human experience, but it simply means, and it has a standard, that I can explain, Mrs. Thomas's position and not agree with it. So you need to be good at listening to other people, not just waiting for them to stop talking so you can get your information in. Because we're talking about a human. We're talking about a human child. And sometimes we let our opinions and our positions get in the way of what's best for the student.
What would you do if a school attempts to change an independent evaluator's report?
Oh, you don't really want to know what I would do. Well, you know me, I would just let it go, right? If I found out somebody did something fraudulent and illegal, I would just let it go. Never. People that know that something's wrong and do nothing are just as culpable. And that's the truth, right? We have people that should be calling in abuses in places that don't. We have all sorts of people in all sorts of settings that should say something. What is it? If you see something, say something. I'm down for that. So if I find out that an evaluator has violated their certification, whether they're a principal or a teacher, I certainly would bring that to the right authorities and assume that they would take the correct action. But educator misconduct is not something I'm going to put up with.
I would like to take your trainings, and I am looking for the dates for virtual and live.
Sure.
Please.
So we have 3 options for you. We have a live, a virtual. We will be live, and you will be live, and we will be virtual. The 22nd and the 23rd. 22nd and 23rd of this month, so just a week and a half. We have an on-demand that's available for you at any time. And then we have a live in-person July 2025. I think it's what are the dates? I think it's the
July 19th and 20th.
I mean, I knew that. I was just seeing if they remembered. So July 19th and 20th, just an hour outside of Orlando, Florida. But this is the time, if you're considering being prepared and ready to be an advocate, this is the training you need. Putting it off is not going to get you prepared to be an advocate. And being an advocate is not something that you really want to learn as you go, because you will fail the families and the children you serve.
You have several people saying they're ready to pivot and become an advocate.
Pivot. I was listening to, do you guys know who Alex Hermosi is? Love him. And he said sometimes in business you have to decide whether you're going to push forward or pivot. So we want all the pivoters to plie over here. I wish I could over here a. Yeah, plie over here yay. Yeah, it's the best. We had training this weekend. So good.
What is my next step if my son was denied an evaluation when he has many indicators of ADHD?
I would file a child fine state complaint 300.111 that the school district has violated their obligation under child fine. It is an obligation. They're not doing you a favor. It's an obligation. So I would file a state complaint or find somebody to file a state complaint. I could do that. Partners could do that for you. And then we have a resource that you can invest in and on Special Education Academy of a digital training of how to file a state complaint. I just want you to know that I have the hiccups because Cindy is insisting that I drink water. So here I am hydrating and hiccuping for Cindy. That should be a shirt, hydrating for Cindy.
What factors into doing a record review versus a full reevaluation?
Well, I mean, they're not exempt of each other. So even if you don't do any new testing, you're charged with doing the records review. So we populate those 8 sections in the read, and as we do a records review, we ask the committee, is the committee requesting any testing in this area?
If the IEP specifies support needed at recess, does that mean we have the right to have an aide there?
If it happens during the instructional day and it's part of the student's individualized education program, we have to implement it. So if an aide is necessary, then yes. Somebody asked if the trainings are for teachers. Absolutely. And then somebody asked if there's ever discounts. There's not discounts, and there's not, somebody asked one time if we have, what is the word when you go to college but you don't pay for it?
Audit. They audit the course.
No, when you go to college you don't pay for it.
A grant?
Like free tuition. A scholarship. Thanks.
Oh.
It took all 3 of us. I don't think Cindy's as hydrated as I am. So we don't have scholarships. If I gave a scholarship to one person, I would have to give it. Thank you. All the people on the screen are like typing scholarship. I would have to give one to everybody. So we certainly know that the investment in the training, you'll receive at least a 10-fold value. And then we also have We have Klarma on our checkout page, which is a place where you can get funding for it.
Okay. For the question that said, what should I do if my son was denied an evaluation even when he has indicators of ADHD? There was a little clarification. It says, he currently has an IEP for speech only. When I brought it up, I was told my concern was not valid for his eligibility.
Your concern was not valid?
Yes. So the speech and language was the IEP, and they were told the concern that she had for ADHD was not valid.
So whenever a school chooses to deny a parent something, they're charged with providing them a prior written notice, a PWN, and that has to be fully populated to meet all seven criteria by federal requirement. So today I received a PWN from at a meeting that I participated in last week, and they populated the PWN and talked about all of the evaluations and records and all the things the committee reviewed and decided the answer is no. You know what's interesting? I was in the meeting. Guess what we reviewed? Say it with me. Nothing. So I'll be filing a fraudulent prior written notice and predetermination and denial. So somebody asked what state I'm in. I'm in the state of hot, heated Texas. And somebody said, do we ever help parents for Spanish? No, we do have the 2-day training in Spanish though.
I need some help. Can a school force me as a para to ride the sped transportation after school hours?
It would depend on the school, the contract that you signed with your employer.
My son is in 2nd grade. He has multiple learning disabilities, a dyslexia diagnosis. What is your opinion on retention for him?
So I think retention is one of the most personal decisions you could ever make. I retained my son in kindergarten. It's a very personal decision. I can tell you that I have never had a family that I worked with in the last almost 3 decades that retained their child and was unhappy that they had done that. But again, that's just my experience in my window. So it's a very personal decision.
Does scaffolding as an accommodation also apply to assessments?
Scaffolding?
Yes. Where they would build up their level of support, should they do that on assessments?
An evaluator has nothing to do with scaffolding. I guess I don't really understand what you're saying.
Okay.
You mean during the testing, they give the child more support than they were prior to the testing?
Well, you would give them more support during the lesson. I think during assessments, they're bound by what the rules of the test would be.
Yeah, those are called protocols.
Okay.
The testing and an assessment has nothing to do with whether or not you give him support or not. So the assessment is going to determine what is his language capacity, what is his intellect, what is achievement, what is his occupational therapy skills, cutting and writing. So whether somebody's sitting with him or not is not going to change the impact of his disability during testing.
I need your thoughts on adaptive PE being provided by a non-certified or credentialed person.
Well, we don't have it in Kentucky. So here's my position, and we even talked about this at the training this weekend. I've had in my lifetime, people that I've come to find out in a student's educational program were not certified, but they were rock stars, and they loved kids. So no harm, no foul. We're looking for children and situations if we have to file when somebody's not certified, if it's not benefiting the child. So I don't know, are they getting their certification? Are they terrible at adaptive PE and not certified? I mean, if both of those things were true, then I would certainly reach out to the district to fix it and then file a state complaint. But if I have a non-certified person doing their best to deliver adaptive physical education services, I'm happy with that.
Should you do extra work because you receive a stipend?
I think you should do your job because you get a stipend. I would assume the stipend is because you're doing extra work. I don't know. I've never received a stipend. Can I get a stipend? Stephanie, will you order me a stipend medium rare off Amazon with buttered potatoes?
Are we able to call with a question?
You're able to reach out to our office and they will respond to your question by email.
Any recommendations for a student that was in a self-contained pre-K class transitioning to kindergarten?
Self-contained pre-K class. So I don't, there are kids for a number of reasons that are in pre-K and it's laid out very differently along states. My grandson was in pre-K. He doesn't have a disability. So I would argue a little bit that kind of all pre-K classes are self-contained-ish. So I don't know his disability. I don't know the acuity of his comorbidities or what kind of support he needs.
Does filing a state complaint always require a large legal fee?
There's no legal fee for state complaint. Anybody can file it. You're going to have to pay the person that files it for you. My fees are equal to that of most attorneys, but it doesn't take me many hours to file a state complaint. I certainly would need to review Mrs. Baclasaw's file and make sure that I have the right federal statutes that I'm opening allegations on. It's very important that when you do a state complaint, you do it right, because you don't get to get up at bat again. So if you do it wrong, they're just going to either not even open it and dismiss it, or they won't address the right areas.
How, as a sped teacher, should I help a student not reaching their goals when they are missing most days? How do I proceed?
You chart that, right? That's a data point. I can't provide an educational benefit when the student is not available to the team.
Is it a violation of faith to have an uncertified sped teacher as a substitute?
Is the position, are you subbing for a special educator? Are you subbing for a 4th grade math class? So, not many complaints about the 4th grade math teacher not being a certified math teacher. Obviously, our space is for children that are denied special education and or their 504 services. So, it would depend if the job that they were subbing for is a special educator. Then that is when you sub for a position, there's an assumption and understanding that you can deliver on that.
I learned that my son missed speech and language sessions. How many sessions does my child have to miss before I should be concerned?
1. Just 1. We decided as a committee he needed these sessions. So, I would find out what is the district's position of making up that time.
I'm confused. How can an adaptive PE teacher not be certified? Aren't they part of an IEP team providing the services?
That is a great question, love. There are many people in the IEP providing services that when we actually get there, they're not certified. And I think it's more not than now. I think that you would be surprised to find that almost 50% of students receiving special education, half of their special ed minutes actually aren't being delivered by certified professionals, unfortunately.
They are telling me my child is going to attend virtual school or be homeschooled. Can they be forced to do that?
That doesn't sound reasonable to me. I'm going to just jump in and ask this question for Pat Dan Mack. Pat Dan Mack says, what's the process for reporting an advocate who's taking advantage of a special needs parent? Do you mean like they're physically harming them? I don't, or they're just making them stay in meetings too long. I'm not sure exactly if they're harming them, and you would call adult protective services if you think they're physically harming them. I always say, even our training this weekend, we have to be very responsible with the families we serve, because there's not a more marginalized population that's desperate to get their child help. So parents with children with disabilities are easily taken advantage of, in my opinion. And I see that often, sometimes by private service providers, adaptive behavior units, entities promising to rewire their kids' brains. We hear it all.
Can my child be denied services because the school has not, or I think has forgot, to track collected RTI data?
So RTI data is not a requirement under IDEA. So an RTI is not part of his individualized education program.
What do you recommend to pass the state certification exam?
I recommend the 3 things that I need for any entity: prayer, preparation, and pantyhose. That's going to get you through anything you need. And maybe, a good coffee. Right, Cindy? A good coffee with extra crema.
Coffee is definitely necessary.
Coffee. Good luck. You're going to do great on your test.
What should I do when the district denies dyslexia evaluation despite in and out of school evals show symptoms?
And you would file a state complaint on denial of child find. So child find is the foundational statute that we start special education on, and it says that the district is required to identify, locate, and evaluate children with suspected disabilities. So if you are in possession that says they have a disability, that has already triggered child find. And for some of you, it'll trigger you in the comments. Is there a statute for comment triggering? Is that right at the end of IDEA? Yeah.
Yes, we might need to create one.
It just says type on with your bad self. We don't have to tell people to type on with their bad self. They feel compelled to type, don't they?
Somebody needs the June and July dates again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so the June is a 2-day virtual. So you can log on from the Kodiak Islands, Miami-Dade County, New Hampshire, New Jersey, all the news, San Diego. And so that will be in about a week and a half, the 22nd and the 23rd of June. 22nd and 23rd of June, Saturday, Sunday. And then the one in July is the 19th and the 20th. That's a 2-day live in Melbourne, Florida. And they're all at specialeducationacademy.com. Oh, Marvin passed his sped test. Let's give Marvin a round of applause. Awesome sauces.
Your school psychologist suggests placement change to a parent via email with no prior conversation.
I mean, you can suggest anything if you're being integrous by email. I mean, we always want to have a conversation about what we need to have a conversation with. Yeah, I mean, certainly if the diagnostician or the psychologist has, information that she believes or he believes would be helpful or a consideration that would be appropriate in the next meeting, I don't see a problem with that.
Special education is new to me and my family. Is it legal to put all age kids in one classroom for special education?
Well, I have districts that I serve families that are super, 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 super tiny. So I serve a district in Montana. I'm sorry, that's not true. I serve a district I do serve districts in Montana. I have a district in Wyoming that the building is 1st through 12th grade. Like it's one little building. So your 1st grade English teacher could also be your senior English teacher. So often, depending on the size of the district, we do have a large amount of cherubs together.
If an instructional assistant is providing for several kids services at once, how does the billing work for that?
I don't do billing for schools. So the implementation of the service is listed on the schedule of services page. So we look at the FDL, frequency, duration, and location. We're charged with doing that. Whether it's group or one-on-one is the decision of the therapist.
Your advice means the world. I'm a first-year teacher here. I was a para for 5 years, and the paperwork is making me nervous. Any advice for me?
So, we're not looking for perfection as good advocates. We're not looking for perfection. We can tell if a teacher or a service provider is being honest and ethical. So we don't die on a hill about paperwork. Do your best and find a system that works for you. Your paperwork might work differently than somebody else's, as I discovered this weekend with some of my friends. They are very paperwork heavy, and I'm very post-it note heavy. So whatever works for you. Just serve those kids the best you can.
What to do in the school if the school removed an IEP and has 8 federal violations and 2 state violations. I need help.
What to do?
What should they do?
Are they a parent, or do they work there? Do they want to karate chop somebody? Do they want to...
I'm thinking a mother, because it says mother of 6.
I mean, do you want a press conference? Do you want... What do you want? You tell me, to tell you, to tell me how I can help you.
Is it... Oh, wait, that was a... Okay. In Massachusetts, they will give him his IEP back. I'm sorry. In Massachusetts, they will not give him back his IEP despite his diagnosis. What should I do?
I would file a state complaint.
Okay. The parent wants us to track 9 behaviors on a BIP. The school disagrees. What happens?
So whatever behaviors that are identified as areas that need an IEP goal, those go in the behavior intervention plan. So if the school put 9 behaviors in the BIP, then the school is required to track them. Most behaviors come under general groupings, so we don't put pencil breaking, paper wadding. We have more general answers. So I think it would be a little hard to have 9 behaviors.
How do I join Special Education Academy?
Yeah, you go to specialeducationacademy.com and you go to the trainings and you join the academy. We are live every Monday night at 8 p.m. Central.
And there was another question. Is the academy, does it go on throughout the summer?
It goes on until I am lifted off this planet. So you have over 4 years of archived series in there. So we've gone live every Monday for over 4 years. So all of the past trainings are in the dashboard. You get access to them as well.
A 504 is in pre-K due to a rare disease on the intestines. She was forgotten for over 30 minutes. I'm afraid it's going to happen again. What do I do?
So tell me what you mean by she was forgotten.
And we will look for it's Bria Beard in the comments.
Okay.
Let's see. If refusals are lasting 3 hours, but no behavior therapist has been added, would that be a denial of faith?
No, you don't need a behavioral therapist to intervene for a child that has behaviors.
Oh, my son's sped teacher makes crybaby gestures at him and also has told other students he is a brat. What on earth can I do?
Oh, there's about 1 billion things that you could do. So I would first ask the principal if he is going to train his staff to be appropriate with children. And based upon his answer would then determine my next steps. Adults shouldn't be mocking children in public schools. I don't even know why that has to be a statement.
Can a special education teacher take away activities if a child is not listening?
If they want to discriminate against them, yeah.
What is my child entitled to when there is a procedural violation? I intend to file a state complaint.
So there's 2 kinds of violations under the law for special education. One is a procedural, that literally means the processes. The second one is substantive, right? And that really is the substance, the harm that comes into play. You're going to be hard pressed to find a need for compensatory time for a child if it's solely procedural. You might have the district or the city or the county be required to do some sort of corrective action plan by the state, but it would be rare that it would rise to the level of being weighty enough to then also be a substantive violation. Oh, somebody just said, what are your thoughts on teachers kissing a student? Let's not do that. That's my thought. Cindy, your teacher, was there a lot of kissing with teachers and students?
No.
No, yeah. Do little kids, I know that you used to teach little kids, what do you do when a little kid tries to kiss Miss Thomas? What do you do?
I I say, oh, you're so sweet. Let's do a side hug. Look at this.
Let's do a side hug. I like it.
You spoke about 8 areas. What are the 8 areas?
So the 8 areas are speech, medical, physical, sociological, psychological, cognitive, all 7 G's, achievement, adaptive behavior, and related services. Look, I got all that done.
Yes, you did.
I didn't even have a cheat sheet in front of me.
How do I get an outside evaluation I've paid taken seriously for an IEP services, goals, and accommodations?
How do you get an outside evaluation? How do you get an outside evaluation that the school pays for and takes it seriously? So you can go pay for an outside evaluation. I would not tell my clients to do that. The problem with an IEE, individual education evaluation, is that the district has no obligation, duty, or responsibility to do anything other than to receive that and convene a meeting that they've received it and all parties have looked at it. So you can have the world's greatest outside evaluation from the Surgeon General of the United States of America. And ABC school district doesn't have to accept any of it, even if they're the most amazing recommendations. So I do everything that I can to not get to that point, because in my experience, I don't like odds being lower than 95%. And when you have an outside evaluation, your odds are very low that the school district is going to say, yes, you know what, Cindy, we realize our evaluation was not good and or appropriate. We would like to accept somebody who doesn't work here, their evaluation.
What's a district required to provide in terms of assistive technology for a speech generating device?
I mean, first of all, we need a trial, an SGD, right? An SGD, an AAC, a VOCD, a voice output communication device. We need to trial that with appropriate reps. We need to trial that with appropriate feature matching. We need to make sure that the motor planning is correct for the student and the teachers. So there's many, many steps. So you would first want to reference the Assistive Technology Act of 1998. And then I would ask the AT specialist, how many weeks will she be trialing each device? And then based upon all of that entity and information determines goals, accommodations, supports, services, and times.
What can I do if the school I work for is in violation of Titles 9, 10, and FAPE? Who can I call?
You can't call anybody, love. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, if you work at a school and you do that, you're going to put your vocation in play. That's just how that's going to go. If you're able to get that information to a responsible parent who can get it to a responsible advocate and they could file, which I have done in many cities and counties and districts, then that's better. And we are always very thankful for teachers and special educators and service providers who bring us amazing advocates, information that can identify a problem in a school that hopefully brings about change for a student. But I would not tell you to put your job on the line to report something that's going wrong in a school. It's my experience, except for maybe 1 or 2 times in 28 years that a school has said to an employee, thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. We had no idea.
My son has a BIP, an autism diagnosis, and still has 3 to 4 hours of refusals. What is the next step if not a behavior therapist?
Well, I mean, you have to understand what is the source of the refusal. I don't know if the refusal is the environment, the expectation, the educator, the demand. He can't do it. So just refusal, I don't know what that means. What I do know is kids can learn, and sometimes kids need a higher supported setting that can solely be provided in public education. Again, I don't know your case. And that might just be that, public schools have limitations, right? They have amazing teachers and educators and administrators that work there, but it's limited. So if it's not possible to deliver FAPE in the current public school setting, then we need to have a conversation about out-of-district placement.
Awesome. And here's our final question. Can you please do a training for my organization, Children's Community Case Management in Maine? How can I make this happen?
So tell me what it's public school, it's Is it medical? What is it? Children's
Community Case Management, and it's in Maine, and it's by the person's name is Kayla Marie.
Kayla Marie. That's a fantastic middle name. I have that. So if you're interested in me speaking somewhere or training somewhere, either in person or virtual, you could just send us an email to our office at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com, and we can get you that information to see if it's a fit.
And she said social work.
Social work. Like it. I like it. Kayla Marie Cox. Okay. All right, you guys behave, be good, and if you can't do both, do one really well. Remember, we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training. Hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change, we're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.